Hello, boys and girls. This week's story is lesson 23. The title of our story is The Goat in the Rug by Geraldine, as told by Charles L. Blood and Martin Link, illustrated by Nancy Winslow Parker. Please listen as I play aloud. Meet the authors.
Meet the authors, Charles L. Blood and Martin Link. These two authors wrote The Goat in the Rug from the point of view of Geraldine, the goat. Charles L. Blood also wrote a book about Native American crafts and games. Martin Link was once a ranger with the National Park Service in Arizona. Meet the illustrator, Nancy Winslow Parker. When Nancy Winslow Parker was a kid, she looked forward to spring cleaning. That was when her mom put new shelf paper in the kitchen cabinets and dresser drawers. The lucky young artist was given all the old paper to draw on. Genre: narrative nonfiction, tells a true story about a topic. As you read, look for a setting that is real, events in time order, facts and information. Goat in the Rug by Geraldine, as told to Charles L. Blood and Martin Link, illustrated by Nancy Winslow Parker.
The essential question is, how is art connected to the past? You should be able to answer that question when the story is over, boys and girls. Here we go. Please follow along.
My name is Geraldine, and I live near a place called Window Rock with my Navajo friend Glen May. It's called Window Rock because it has a big round hole in it that looks like a window open to the sky. Glen May is called Glen May most of the time because it's easier to say than her Indian name, Gli Nazba. In English, that means something like female warrior, but she's really a Navajo weaver. I guess that's why, one day, she decided to weave me into a rug.
Boys and girls, your first question is, which character is Geraldine? And then what clues in the story help you know that? So which one of these characters do you think is Geraldine on the page? If you picked she is the goat, you are correct. The illustration shows two characters, a goat and a woman. Geraldine says she lives with her Navajo friend. So Geraldine is the goat.
Remember, it was a warm, sunny afternoon. Glen May had spent most of the morning sharpening a large pair of scissors. I had no idea what she was going to use them for, but it didn't take me long to find out.
Boys and girls, why do you think the author chooses to have Geraldine tell the story? Geraldine is a goat, so she will tell the story differently than a person would. This can make the story more interesting and funny for us as a listener or a reader.
Before I knew what was happening, I was on the ground, and Glen May was clipping off my wool in great long strands. It's called mohair, really. It didn't hurt at all, but I admit I kicked up my heels some. I'm very ticklish for a goat. I might have looked a little naked and silly afterwards, but my, did I feel nice and cool. So I decided to stick around and see what would happen next.
Boys and girls, what do you think Geraldine means when she says she kicked up her heels? Geraldine probably means that she squirmed around because she is very ticklish. Why does Geraldine feel silly after Glen May clips her wool? Think about when you have a haircut. Make a text-to-text connection. She is used to having the long fur, and now she doesn't, so it's a different feeling.
The first thing Glen May did was chop up roots from a yucca plant. The roots made a soapy, rich lather when she mixed them with water. She washed my wool in the suds until it was clean and white. After that, a little bit of me, you might say, was hung up in the sun to dry. When my wool was dry, Glen May took out two large square combs with many teeth. By combing my wool between these carding combs, as they're called, she removed any bits of twigs or burrs and straightened out the fibers. She told me it helped make a smoother yarn for spinning.
Boys and girls, how do you think the wool might have gotten twigs or burrs in it? Boys and girls, it probably got twigs and burrs in it because the wool used to make this used to be Geraldine's coat, and wool fibers may have collected the twigs and burrs when she rubbed against the plant.
Lies the text. Sequence of events. Retell what Glen May has done so far to make the rug. Then Glen May carefully started to spin my wool, one small bundle at a time, into yarn. I was beginning to find out it takes a long while to make a Navajo rug. Again and again, Glen May twisted and pulled the wool. Then she spun it around a long, thin stick she called a spindle. As she twisted and pulled and spun, the finer, stronger, and smoother the yarn became.
Please go back and sequence the events so far that Glen May has done to make the rug.
A few days later, Glen May and I went for a walk. She said we were going to find some special plants she would use to make dye. I didn't know what dye meant, but it sounded like a picnic to me. I do love to eat plants. That's what got me into trouble.
Why do you think Glen May wanted to find plants to make the dye? She probably did this because she will use the dye to add color to the wool because the wool is very plain.
Glen May was out looking for more plants. I ate every one she had already collected in her bucket. Delicious.
Why do you think eating the plants will get Geraldine into trouble? If you think about that, boys and girls, it will get her into trouble because Glen May wanted to use those plants to color the wool.
Next day, Glen May made me stay home while she walked miles to a store. She said the dye she could buy wasn't the same as the kind she makes from plants, but since I'd made such a pig of myself, it would have to do.
Boys and girls, there's an example of problem and solution on this page. Can you think of what that is? Well, the problem is that Geraldine ate the plants for the dye. So now Glen May has no dye. She solves her problem by going to the store to buy new dyes.
Really worried that she would still be angry with me when she got back. She wasn't, though, and pretty soon she had 3 big potfuls of dye boiling over a fire. Then I saw what Glen May had meant by dyeing. She dipped my white wool into one pot, and it turned pink. She dipped it in again. It turned a darker pink. By the time she'd finished dipping it in and out and hung it up to dry, it was a beautiful deep red.
Why is Geraldine worried that Glen May will be angry with her when she gets back from the store? Geraldine has caused a lot of trouble by eating the dye ingredients, so she was worried that she made her mad.
After that, she dyed some of my wool brown and some of it black. I couldn't help wondering if those plants I'd eaten would turn all of me the same colors. Analyze the text. Conclusions. Why does Geraldine think she'll turn red, brown, and black?
Geraldine is worried about this, boys and girls, because she ate the plants that Glen May was going to use to dye the wall. So she thinks that she will turn those colors since she ate those plants. But we know that's not true.
While I was worrying about that, Glen May started to make our rug. She took a ball of yarn and wrapped it around and around 2 poles. I lost count when she'd reached 300 wraps. I guess I was too busy thinking about what it would be like to be the only red, white, black, and brown goat at Window Rock.
What would have happened if Glen May had skipped the step of using the dyes when she was making the rug? Boys and girls, the answer to that question is the rug would be very plain. It would just be the color of the wool.
It wasn't long before Glen May had finished wrapping. Then she hung the poles with the yarn on a big wooden frame. It looked like a picture frame made of logs. She called it a loom. After a whole week of getting ready to weave, Glen May started. She began weaving at the bottom of the loom. Then, one strand of yarn at a time, our rug started growing toward the top. A few strands of black, a few of brown, a few of red, in and out, back and forth, until in a few days the pattern of our rug was clear to see. Our rug grew very slowly, just as every Navajo weaver before her had done for hundreds and hundreds of years. Glen May formed a design that would never be duplicated.
Why do you think Glen May's rug will never be duplicated? Remember, duplicated means making a copy of. This is because each weaver makes a design that is not copied by other weavers. It is their very unique design, much like your fingerprints, boys and girls.
Then, at last, the weaving was finished. But not until I'd checked it quite thoroughly in front and in back did I let Glen May take our rug off the loom. There was a lot of me in that rug. I wanted it to be perfect, and it was. Since then, my wool has grown almost long enough for Glen May and me to make another rug. I hope we do very soon, because, you see, there aren't too many weavers like Glen May left among the Navajos.
Why do you think Navajo rugs are so special? I think they're so special because it takes a long time for Navajo weavers to make a rug. Rug designs are not copied. There are very few weavers left among the Navajo.
There's only one goat like me, Geraldine.
Boys and girls, why do you think the author titled this story The Goat and the Rug? I think they titled it The Goat and the Rug, because Geraldine's wool is used to make the rug.
This is the true story of a weaver and her goat who lived in the Navajo Nation at Window Rock, Arizona.